As the final buzzer sounded on the Pistons' 2023 season, two die-hard fans, Mickey and Harry, each passed out and witnessed a vision. They were visited by Detroit's very own mascot, Hooper, the stallion ablaze, who told them the only way the Pistons would ever win a championship again was if these two men started a podcast. To be clear, they said, do we really have to do this? I mean, aren't there enough Pistons podcasts already? It seems like this might be overkill. But Hooper dunked on them, right in their face, and said, your team needs you. He presented them with a prophecy. Now it is their duty to help Detroit rise again and become champions. The Order of the Blazing Horse. Welcome back to another episode of the Order of the Blazing Horse, the only Detroit Pistons podcast based on a mystical prophecy. The only one. I am one of those prophets, Harry, touched by Hooper, touched by a horse, not in an inappropriate way. Joined as always by my main man, my co-prof on the West Coast. Give it up for him, man.
Mickey Jacobs, what's going on, Harry? We got an all-star
Woo!
on our hands here. Come on. For the first time since 2019.
Killer.
Before anyone knew about COVID, before a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
We're due. How are you feeling?
I feel validated because I've been calling for him to be an all-star since like week 2. Been calling for him to be an all-NBA player since also pretty early, so hopefully that goes through. But bro, I made so much noise. I'm so happy my office is detached from where my wife is because she would have sighed and rolled her eyes so hard at me for dodoing so. But this is great news. She could roll. Harry! It was just great news. Like today was a great day for me. I won a big disc golf game against some of my buddies. Kay gets named an all-star. Let's go. I don't even care about the 3 losses they've suffered in a row here. Which let me sum those up real quick. You're playing guys with 2 30-point scorers on a regular basis. We're playing tough. We have 1 30-point scorer. That's how it's going to go. And we've gotten some rumors about the trade deadline stuff that might happen. Sounds like Trajan wants to get some future first, which is great by me. But it also says something about where the direction of this team this season could go. Mickey, how have you been?
I've been good. Bowling game's been average. Works normal, Just, those last 3 losses would have loved to end the road trip on a high note. But, I think we're already playing with house money. We're smashing the over. Not that I'm really a betting man, but it's exciting stuff. I think, at the very least, the Pistons will remain in the play-in. Who knows? Maybe a move comes, maybe a move doesn't. But I'm feeling good.
Mickey, you got a shout out for the headband too. The headband is dope. It is. Give the people what they want to see. Give them the close up, baby.
This whole thing.
Oh,
this right
man.
here. Listen, when Detroit has a player in the All-Star game, it's headband Mickey time.
I love headband Mickey. That's the best one.
Thank you. He's unhinged, truly.
Well, let's hope you can hinge it because even though the Pistons have lost 3 games, we've got a very special game for people today. We've been thinking about this for a while. We've been thinking about what we would do if we were in charge of this team, what we want to have happen. I'm sure if you're a fan, you got some ideas what you want to have happen. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen your wild posts about what our trades could be, about who would be good on this team, what moves you'd make. Well, guess what? We've got 3 huge names in the Pistons sports communities. 3 people you drool over their takes. 3 people you love what you got to see. And we also have an affinity for the 1970s Game Show Network games. So let us lead into our fun segment that we like to call the Armchair GM-ing Game. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Armchair GM-ing Game. We've got some wonderful candidates who are looking to make some great changes to the Pistons and see how they're going to do. Mickey, tell us a little bit about this game before we can introduce these guys.
Yeah, like you said, everybody on Twitter, everybody on Blue Sky, everybody on Reddit, they think they know best. They think they should have the keys to the kingdom or the palace or LCA. But we're going to ask a few questions and see if these 3 gents really got what it takes to kick Trajan Langdon out of his job.
I like that. So without further ado, let's introduce our first guest. You might know him. Oh my God, I've got the same thing on. I should have taken this off. We're going to have to watch it again, baby. I'm sorry. My bad. My God, guy, cut it out. Okay, we're gonna have to wait for the music to die out because I made this transition way too long, but that's a jam, bro. It is such a jam. Talk about a royalty-free jam. Really pretty feeling good, yeah. That.
Those are the best kind.
Royalty-free. Give it up for the YouTube audio library and Pixabay, all that stuff. But our first contestant, he is the engagement manager at Secret Base. You might be following him on YouTube. He's got tons of followers. You should be one. You should be subscribed. You should chip into that. He's the man who knows how to get the Pistons that championship trophy. Everybody welcome Kofie.
Oh, I don't know how to get them the trophy. I was like, who you? Glad to be here, y'all.
Thanks, man. Kofie, we love what you have to offer, but we got to ask you the same question we're going to ask everybody to start off. What is your one-sentence Pistons hot take?
It's time to change those jerseys. We have an all-star, and I feel like when you change jerseys, it's always a symbolism of entering a new era. When LeBron left the Cavs, they changed their jerseys up. I think we have all-star Cade Cunningham, and these jerseys that we have currently are too synonymous with losing. I think it's time to change them up. Bring the teal horse back. I don't care. Just change something up. It doesn't matter to me what they are. Just change the look, change the jerseys, and I think we'll be all right. Change the court too while we're at it.
As long as it doesn't go to that maroon and teal court, I'm happy with it. As long as your video advertised, they don't have the sleeve jerseys back. I know some people love it. I don't want to see that. I want to see them tattoos.
I love to have the sleeve jerseys back. What are you talking about?
I love that take.
Motor City with sleeves, and then bringing back Reggie Jackson because the only player worthy of wearing
the Reggie Jackson specs too.
The specs are hot. I love those R&B specs. My God, Ron Holland would love listening to Reggie Jackson in those specs. All right, Mickey, introduce our next guest, baby.
You're about to take the new announcing job in Little Caesars Arena, I think, with that.
Freemason!
I also enjoyed getting to watch that intro twice because Kofie's got some great dance moves, so I was taking some notes there. My Pistons hot take is that the Pistons are going to skip the play-in entirely, and they are going to just straight up make the playoffs.
I love it!
Spicy.
I want it.
That's a hot take for me. I'm really into it. I'm already liking what we got going on here. New jerseys, Pistons making the playoffs, pretty good stuff. And speaking of pretty good stuff, we do have a final contestant. You might know him by any of his social media platforms. This guy is putting out so much content. It's out there. It's up to date. It's hot. It's fresh. The team loves him. The Pistons media source loves him. We love him. He is your man with the mid-range jumper from down under. Give it up for Pistons, Jack, y'all.
Thanks for having me, guys. I've never had an intro like that. Yeah, super fun to be on here with Kofie, with Bobby Buckets, with yourselves. This is awesome. I'm already said I'm not sure how I'm going to go as a GM, but yeah, no, super excited to be here.
All right, Jack. Well, let's hear that hot take, dude.
So my hot take was going to be that like Ron Holland will be the second leading scorer on this team. I was going to say when they make the playoffs, but that might be this season. So, because I'm so used to that being such a thing in the future. But, you know, Kofie got me thinking then with his one. I've always hated the camera angle at Little Caesars Arena and at the Palace before. It's too high. Like, I want something that's more on like the sideline. Like when you watch, and I hate the lighting. I want cinematic. Is that what you call it? At like the Lakers have? They like darken all the seats and that kind of thing, and the courts. Like MSG, I want a lower camera angle and that kind of lighting for LCA. You know, like if we've got an all-star now and an all-NBA player, let's make it feel like even more of a show.
Yes, sir. And I got to say, I am 100% with dimming the lights on some of the seats at LCA because they don't sell out too often.
Yeah, that as well.
Fun games, though, nonetheless. If you guys haven't been to LCA, get a chance to go there. It'll be a good time. So, gents, I got to ask you, are you ready to play the Armchair GM-ing game?
Let's go, baby.
Let's do
it.
Okay, Mickey, why don't you do the honors? Get them going.
Yeah, let's start with something that's coming up pretty quick here. Let's talk about the trade deadline. Do we go big trade? Do we go small trade? Or do we go no trade, stay the course, keep things that they are? Why don't we start with you, Kofie?
All right. This might be personal vendetta, but whatever. I'm going to do a small trade, and we're going to get Tim Hardaway Jr. out of here, and we're going to bring in Lonzo Ball from Chicago. I think that what we've seen for this Pistons season is that they just need a second like ball handler now that Ivy's out. And like even though Sasser can do it, I would rather have someone else as well. And I feel like Lonzo and Cade would be an interesting kind of fit for now, but it's been too frustrating sometimes seeing Cade just leave the absolute like game and then just be like, oh dude, this team looks so lost. And I'm not saying that like Lonzo Ball can right the ship, but I think that like there's not that many people available for trade right now for that kind of like lowish value that could like make it a little bit better. But I think that even right now, a little bit better is gonna be so helpful for this team. So yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr., you're out of there. Lonzo Ball.
Okay.
Get a little Zoe in the D.
So the deer. Oh man, do I have you muted, Mickey? I hope I don't. No, I don't. You should be on there.
All right, should we kick it over to Robbie?
Yeah, let's. Bobby, why don't you tell us what you think about that?
The Zoe idea I love. If my original idea was actually going to get taken, Zoe was going to be my plan B. So I'm with that, Kofie. But I'm actually going to follow along with Kofie's thinking. But instead of going Lonzo, we are going to be shipping out THJ and Simone Fontecchio, but we are going to bring in CJ McCollum. For all the same reasons, of course. I don't know if we would need to include seconds, if New Orleans needs to include seconds. I'm not totally sure. But with that trade in mind, it's really for what I'm thinking of next season. So this is more of, we got the future in mind.
Okay.
Little tease here.
Yeah. Okay. You know, like, we're not going to ask everybody all the same questions, but Jack, I want to know yours too. I got to hear who your trade would be. Is it big or small? Is that something that you're feeling?
Straight up, you guys have taken both my A and B. So, I was like on the fence about this. I initially had down trading for CJ, but then when I got to the off season, I was like, oh wow, CJ and Tobias, that's a lot of money. So I actually reverted. I really like CJ, and if they made that trade, I think he would be an awesome fit. But I went back to Lonzo, and my deal was trading Simone and a future Knicks second in 2026 for Lonzo. So I don't like really sending out the pick too much, but I just was trying to keep it real with seeing what the Bulls want. Don't know if they get that, but Simone Fontecchio, Knicks 2026 second for Lonzo Ball.
Well,
I like it.
It sounds like everybody's on the same page about who they want out and who they want in on this team here right now. So we're gonna have to diversify these answers a little bit with some more questions. So we're gonna go back to you, Bobby Buckets. I want to know, who are your top free agent priorities this offseason?
I think Number one, because in my scenario, we are keeping him through the deadline, is going to be re-signing Malik Beasley. I think that with one of the exceptions coming up, I forget whether it's the non-taxpayer MLE or the room exception, somewhere between like 9 and 13 million. So re-signing Malik Beasley would be my first choice. Second, not exactly a free agent, but I want to extend Jaden Ivey, get him maybe on like a Jalen Green type of deal. Because kind of like what Jack said earlier with CJ McCollum, he makes like 31 million, something like that next year. So he takes up a lot of the cap. I think I would look to re-sign Malik, extend Jaden Ivey. I'm just not so sure I'm ready to extend Jalen Duren yet.
Whoa. Sounds like our studio audience really likes that answer. So
I agree with them too.
They have some feelings about it. Pistons Jay, I got to know from you, who are your free agent priorities?
Beasley, obviously. And then I'm looking at Miles Turner, like at the center position. So heading into this offseason. I also had some other guys here on the cheap, but I don't think I need to mention them yet.
Okay, we'll hold off on the cheap.
That's exactly who I have.
Yeah, so did I.
Oh my God.
I will just say it is hard to find a starting 4 in the NBA.
I think
Yes, for sure.
With that.
No shade. I think 4 is the most complicated position in the NBA because you either have to have the ball in your hands so much to be a force with it, like, say, Julius Randle or Brandon Ingram, or you're just kind of there, like a Tobias Harris. So it's like, what do you really want? I guess the best one would be Jason Tatum, right? Tatum or Giannis, one of those two dudes. But if that's the case, that's who your whole offense is. It's a tough position to fill.
Do you guys think if Miles is a realistic target, is there going to be beef between him and Isaiah if they're on the same team? Do we need to make them play with Legos together and build something as like a team camaraderie thing? I don't know.
Maybe Stu will slip some in his shoe. That'll be a little easy off the way.
I think the only thing they would build is a beautiful friendship over time. And I think Turner would end up being honorary dog pound. I do think he would be expensive, but I also would love a stretch 5 with Kate.
All right. Well, I got a question for Kofie now, if that's okay, because we're talking about players that we want the Pistons to sign. Kofie, will you tell us what kind of personalities do you think fit best with this Pistons team?
Kind of personalities, people that look. If Isaiah Stewart's setting the tone every day, and sometimes he'll be like, "Yo, I'm gonna leave this game, and I'm gonna still send a message." I think that's the type of people that we need. We need that Detroit basketball, baby. I'm not like I was upset earlier in the season because I didn't know if we were like trying to get rid of these bad habits. So when Isaiah Stewart was getting like ejected out of earlier games, I was like, man. But now like we're in a better position. I'm like, you can take off a game or two. But like the fact is, I think with this Pistons team and with people, the personalities that I really love on this team is that there are no nights off for other teams this year. Last year, any other team could go on a 10-0 run and the game is immediately over. Whereas I don't think that this team, like they take pride in actually like winning and losing games, which has been such a night and day change than last year. Because like last year, you just see 3 turnovers in a row and they get all mopey and stuff like this. I think that this year, or next year, like free agents, whoever we bring in, I just want them to buy in, just like how much Beasley has bought in to just being in Detroit. I know like last year, Evan Fournier was just like, yeah, I'd rather play overseas than play in Detroit ever again. And we were just like, okay, all right, you didn't say that. But now like Malik Beasley's like, I want to be here. And now it's like, even though he's been here for like half a season, it's like, I don't want to see you leave because you've like bought in so much. Those are the kind of people I want here.
Man, I love that. What an answer.
So good. All right. So, Bobby B, you alluded to the future a little bit. It sounds like you've got a little long game planned. What do you think the perfect number 2? Who do you think the perfect number 2 to pair with Deuce is?
I used to think it was like a big wing, a big scoring like power forward. But after playing this little game, preparing for this podcast, I actually think it's going to be Bam Adebayo, because we think Cade needs a lob threat. Check. We think Cade needs an elite rim protector. Check. We think Cade needs someone who can stretch the floor. Check. Now, is he going to be super expensive to try and trade for? Absolutely. But I think a big that can defend, stretch the floor, and even play make a little bit, I think Bam would open up a world of opportunities for this team, especially if you have Asar and Ron, hounding people on the perimeter.
Man, just to never see Bam stretch the floor against the Pistons again would make my life
You can hit buzzer
I'd
beaters
forgotten
for
about
us
that.
instead of buzzer
Game
beaters
winners.
That's
against us.
an answer I was not expecting. Pistons Jack. Same question.
Ideal player next to Cade. Well, from what we've seen this season, I'm a bit like Bobby in the sense of like, I still think like putting a wing next to him would work very well. But I think I've even been surprised with how much on-ball load he can take every night and it can lead to wins. Like have such a high usage and this team can still be winning with just floor spacing and like a lob threat or someone who can, well, we don't have a stretch 5, but yeah, I think, man, I don't know. I like part of me now thinks like, this is why I'm so all in on Jaden Ivey even more now, because just having a ball handling guard that can score next to him and give him a break on the court as well and Ivy needs to get further, but I'm kind of thinking now like that Luka Kyrie thing a little bit with a lob threat and shooting around at the wings. So I know it's a bit of a, like Ivy's already on the roster, but that type of player I think can really thrive next to Cade, whereas I might not have thought that before this season.
We don't need to bring in a number 2. We have a number 2 at home. I love it.
The fans love it. Everyone's really feeling it.
Yeah, they're going crazy.
I don't know where they're coming from, but they're losing their
Studio
minds.
audience is lit.
All right, I want to go back to you, Jack, because I feel like you've always had like these second questions coming at you. I want to give you the opportunity to answer one right off the get-go here. You can have the first choice here. What is more important to you, spacing or defense?
Ooh. Well, last year's team had neither. So I'm thinking if you had have asked me last year, I would have probably said spacing. This is tricky. It's so close. I think I will with this Pistons, with just Cade specifically, I'm going to say it's probably still spacing just because of how much it's elevated. Like Cade last season, I wasn't sure could be a number 1 guy. Still needs to prove he can be, but like him with some 2 floor spaces and just shooting is, it's pretty, like I didn't think he could get to this level. So I'm going to say spacing, but it's really close.
I like that answer.
Totally.
I think spacing is important, and I think a lot of people say that defense is like a hustle thing. You can really convince your team to start playing that, but the spacing with Cade seems to make a huge difference. Kofie, same question.
I totally agree, man. It's been so refreshing to see Malik Beasley take a shot and be like, "Wow, there was nobody on that roster last year that would even attempt this." But the person that was, it'd be Alec Burks, and you'd be like, "Oh, okay, fine." But
He's the ultimate
I
Kambusha
think
girl meme. Just
So I think that just seeing even if the shots aren't going down, it's just even the threat or like the reputation of the people in the corner being like, oh, I should actually pay attention to them. I know that Asar is still shooting like 20% from three, but it's such a difference when it's like Malik Beasley in the corner versus like, oh, let's play Stewart, Dern, and Thompson together all on the floor like it's 1984. Good luck, Cade. Fuck you. You know, it's like stuff like that where I think that I just want like seeing the Pistons play like as close to modern basketball as possible has been very important to me, knowing that it like just is a possible thing because again, seeing the Asar and Ron Holland like defensive stuff where it's like, oh, okay, we can see where that's coming. Like that's definitely gonna be here, but that spacing stuff, it's like in this offseason, it was like, oh, okay, Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley. Okay, like I like that, so I prioritize spacing a lot more. I think it just opens up and just shows what Cade can do with a modern NBA like style of thinking.
I completely agree. And like I think that one of the differences about these vets on this team compared to last season is in theory, like Joe Harris was a catch and shoot three guy or a 3-point shooter. Bojan was a 3-point shooter. Burks could hit threes. But Burks and Bojan were create their own threes guys as opposed to catch and shoot threes guys, which we have now with Harris, THJ, and Malik, and even Ron is starting to catch and shoot some, and Fontecchio. That's why Fontecchio was everyone's favorite dude last year. He's the only guy who could do that last year. So, just I think the floor spacing is just like really opened up this team, and it's been very fun to watch. Mickey, what do you want to ask our fellas here?
Yeah, so we're talking about who we'd pair with Cade and just plans in general. I'm going to take this one to Kofie to start this one off. What were
I think for us, we're gonna have to go balanced rosters. I think that seeing Trajan like pull up and was just like, "Hey man, I'm gonna be honest with you. We're gonna take on some bad contracts for the first couple of, and like, I would rather have that honestly than trying to just like do what the Timberwolves and Suns did, where like we're gonna bet like 8 years of our future for like this player. I think that that's kind of like we've kind of seen what goes on with that, and especially what happens when it blows up. So I'd rather us just try to like just have a more balanced in terms, and I think that we do kind of have some semblance of more balance. Like I said this on another podcast. I have never been more happy for a team to be mid on both sides of the I've never been happy where it's like, okay, like mid offense, mid defense, this is perfect. We're getting somewhere. Like so I think that the balance part, instead of like the constant like, oh, we should just go all in on this. I'm like, I've just never liked that aspect, honestly.
Now, instead of going to someone else specifically, does anyone disagree?
I don't think so, but I guess so I started thinking, and I'm like, balanced rosters. Like, I think it's about everyone who knows what their role is and wants to exceed at their role. And so I instantly started thinking of like, okay, what teams do I start thinking of where players have different roles and they excel at them really well? And of course, I thought of the Celtics and the Thunder, but it's the two best teams in the league. So I'm not even sure that that's like a good comparison. But I just think teams that have like specific roles that everybody knows what their role is and they want to excel at that specific thing, I think is better than trying to get like 2 or 3 guys that do it all.
Yeah, I like that. I like that that's an option for this team as well. And I hate super teams. I hate super teams.
I feel like that's in Pistons fans' DNA, isn't it?
Oh yeah. If you were around in 2004, you hate super teams. You hate those guys. I hate super teams as much as Matt Ishbia loves super teams.
And he loves them.
He's gonna die on that hill.
Can I ask a question on the super teams? Like,
yeah.
Do you guys think though, like, if you could, or like, I guess this wouldn't be necessarily great for our Detroit Pistons, but do you think the league is better when there is a Golden State Warriors in the mid 2010s? Or I know the Lakers in the early 2000s had Shaq and Kobe, not necessarily the three guys, but like those type of teams where they've almost got too much talent. Like, do you think it's good? Do you enjoy when the NBA has one of those teams?
Are you talking like Warriors with Durant or without Durant? Or does it matter?
I would say with Durant.
Okay, because with Durant felt like I used to call that anime time skip. But like again, the Pistons were like not even nowhere close to like competing. Like if I was a Rockets fan, I would be upset. Right? Like I would be, but Pistons fan, I would be like, I don't even know what were we dealing with at the time. It was just unserious basketball. So it was just like, okay, I guess we could like witness greatness, but if it happened at like our expense, maybe I would have a different opinion on like the super team thing.
I'm pretty sure so the season KD signed with the Warriors, we drafted Henry Allenson with a first round pick.
Oh yeah, we were doing side quest, bro.
That's what the Pistons were up to.
We were debating Stanley Johnson and Justice Winslow. Whatever.
They zig, we zag.
When the Pistons were that bad, I was zigzagging pretty heavy out in LA. If you catch my drift,
Yeah.
I had to blow away those memories. Oh man, I never really considered, even with the KD on the Golden State Warriors, I never really thought of them as a super team in the way that you have like all these superstars. Steph Curry was like an elite talent. Draymond was an interesting talent, and like it's not like he'd be a superstar in every team or anything like that. I just felt like they were a great combined team. The superstar teams I hated were like when Boston did it. I hated when Brooklyn did it. I love that Brooklyn failed doing it personally. I thought that was great. So I'm fine with good basketball because I think any sort of beauty and elegance and grace in the sport is why I watch the sport, and I want to be impressed by it. And even if it's at my team's expense, there'll be other years. Like hopefully I'll live to be over 50 and I'll see a good amount of basketball. So I can give a couple years here and there where there are teams that are just like absolutely brilliant to watch.
Yeah, I also think it pays to have like a presence that like a lot of teams and fans just find evil. Like I'm very biased as a Pistons fan, but there's something about beating that Kobe Shaq team with a bunch of role players playing at the top of their game. I think there's something kind of like David and Goliath about that I really dig.
Oh yeah. Were any of you guys fans when the Going to Work Pistons won their championship?
I was there, Game 5.
Get out of here!
Wow.
I was like 12 with my dad, but yeah, I was there.
Man,
I was not there, but I had the games on VCR.
get that VCR
Didn't
out.
follow
Too.
the NBA.
Hell yeah. Ever dust out the old tape? Put it in?
I gotta get a VCR. I gotta find another VCR player, but I do have them.
Amazing.
Good old NBA on ABC production.
That was the OG balanced roster, that 04 team.
Yeah, that was the All-Star roster, right? Everybody but
Yeah.
Tayshaun.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tayshaun. Greatest block in the history of NBA, and didn't make that All-Star team. But so be it.
That picture on the sideline and them in front of the scorers table, all checking in, all four of them. It's a very cool picture. Yeah.
So sick. What a moment in time. All right, let's get back into the game. We're going to go to Pistons Jack on this one. Jack, what is your idea of the perfect date? No, sorry. Okay, that's the wrong question. We're not doing perfect dates. Wrong show, but we can find out afterward. Ladies, he's taken, I think, if I'm following your radio right. But whatever, maybe your lady can find the perfect date. So, Jack, I got to know, should Cade remain the lead ball handler, or should he take on like more of a scoring-centric role and the Pistons try to require somebody else to take the ball handling duties?
No, give him the ball as much as possible. And that's not where I was at the start of the end of last season. But like I was kind of saying earlier, he has surpassed. Like this is like year 7 Cade for me. What I expected. Maybe not as many turnovers as recently, but in large part, like this is like year 6 or 7 for Cade. Like I didn't think he could get here this quickly. And I also was skeptical whether the Pistons could be like relevant in a winning team, which they kind of are now, with him like just having the ball so much. I thought maybe he needs to be off ball a bit more, but man, as long as they have some sort of secondary creation to make sure he's not going to get like worn down, which is something I'm a little bit worried about right now, I think let him have the ball as much as possible. Like I truly think he's kind of that special as a playmaker and pretty darn good shot creator.
I gotta ask the same thing I asked before. Does anyone disagree?
Do not disagree. And I think my dream scenario in the future for the Pistons lineup is that Cade is the smallest player. So if your biggest player is 6'6", 6'7" at the point guard spot, like you can just exploit mismatches so well on the offensive side. Now, I don't know if that means, if Ivy's coming off the bench, if it's like, I'm just trying to think of a lineup that's like Cade, Asar, Ron, shooter, where, Cade is like guarding the shooter in the corner on defense. He can save his energy on defense because Asar and Ron are doing all the dirty work. And then he's just got the ball and he's the smallest guy on the court where, who's going to guard him? Trae Young going to have to guard him. Does he have to switch on Asar and Asar can attack him? So I think my dream scenario is Cade at the point guard spot, but the shortest guy on the team or in the lineup.
I don't hate that. I gotta say, what's so wild about it is like Ivy looks so short. The dude's 6'4". That's a pretty big player, just in general.
I remember looking at when people were looking at Brandon Ingram trades. Ivy is listed at a heavier weight than Brandon Ingram is. Like I don't think Ingram weighs over 200, and I think Ivy's like at 205, 210. So he's he's a built stocky guy
Strong.
too. Yeah, strong dude.
Kofie, you feel the same way?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I totally rock with the Cade smallest dude on the court lineups for sure. It reminds me kind of like a little bit of like what the Hawks have been trying to do around Trae Young, where it's like we're going to try to get Trae Young to rest as much as he can on the defensive end. Here's Dyson Daniels, have fun. Here's Jalen Johnson, have fun. Like I like those kind of like that kind of roster building, and I think that the Pistons definitely seeing like Asar and seeing Asar and Ron Holland be like, hey, you guys are dogs. Go shut down the opponent. Shut down the like main ball handlers and scorers. That's going to be so much fun when I can see Asar and Ron be able to play like 25 to 30 minutes like in rotations. That's my main goal. Like my main thing would be like, we're here. This is dope. I love it.
I think it's on its way, honestly. Just like looking at how they're trying to develop these guys, it seems like they're trying to get Asar to ball handle a fair share more. And I think he's growing at that. They're growing pains for sure. I mean, we got to take in mind he wasn't able to do any sort of athletic activity for almost a year, right? So it's like, and his first full year on the team was under Monty Williams. So like, it's been stunted growth coming in here. We got to give him some leeway in that regard. And looking at the growth of Ron Holland already, in order for those two to play on the floor, one of them has to be able to shoot threes. Ron's shooting 34 from three in the last like 2.5 months. It's on the come up. He's 19 years old. There's no reason to believe that all three of those dudes can't play at the same time in the front three positions there.
Yeah, I like the size thing too. It reminds me a little bit of the Magic too.
Oh yeah.
Sick of getting bullied.
Mm-hmm.
All wings, basically. All big wings that can dribble and play make.
Mickey, you on the next one?
All right. Yeah, sure. So I think you were talking a little bit about Monty. That name came up. We've got a new coach this year. JB, I think everyone can agree has been great. Do you think that he is the answer long term, Kofie?
I think the thing here is that the bar was so incredibly low. The bar was so incredibly low last year, bro. It's basically like I could probably no, I'm not. Well, It's like almost if like Asar just spent an extra year at OTE. That's how bad. That's how like unserious we were at basketball. So I think that Bickerstaff coming in and like even like week one was like looked at Cade and Ivy and was like, yeah, these two should be playing together. I don't know what the other dude was on. Like he didn't really say that, but it was like the having Ivy like 11th in the rotation for like 2 weeks and then having the Pistons signing Kevin Knox and then having him start a game before Ivy did. Very weird stuff that he did. But the thing is, I think that even if Bickerstaff isn't the guy, like with the Cavs where they like got Atkinson and they're like doing better, it's like Bickerstaff got them there. So like even if that happens, I'm fine with it, because there's sometimes you need a Teddy Bridgewater coach if that's your thing. If you need a bridge quarterback to get to the head coach that takes you to the promised land. If Bickerstaff is that coach that takes you to the promised land already, that's great. If there is a plateau, that's like, I think that the fact that when Bickerstaff got hired, a lot of Cavs fans were like, oh, think about how Bickerstaff like let us down in the playoffs. And then a lot of Pistons fans are like, if Bickerstaff gets us to the playoffs, then that's a great problem to have. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
So I think that that's my like final answer, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, he could be the guy, or he could be the Rick Carlisle to someone else's Larry Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, I was like bummed when Rick Carlisle got let go, and then they won a championship. And I was like, whatever, we're all good.
Harry, he's doing fine.
He's doing just fine. So we also want to know, because we talked a little bit about like this season, but Jack, because you're the last one to get asked about like the trades that they can make in the in the free agents or right before the deadline, what would be the moves you would make for this summer, and then also at the deadline next year if you had the full plan for 2025, 2026?
So the first thing I'm going to try and do this offseason is sign Jaden Ivey to a similar extension that Jalen Green signed, but more so for the reason he's coming off of injury. And I'm assuming he might want more than this, but considering, like, I don't think this type of broken leg is anything long-term to be concerned about, but it's still somewhat of a significant injury. So I've got down here, you're extending him for 3 years, 110. So I think off the top of my head, that sounds like a lot, but I remember I did an episode ages ago with Kyle Metz, who's like a bit of a Pistons Twitter kind of cap guru. And I remember between like 30 and 35 million annually seeming like kind of realistic for Jaden. Now, obviously, this doesn't actually kick in until the following season for him, I don't think. So that's the first thing I want to try and get done. Not trying to shortchange Jaden, but I think it's kind of a deal that could work for both parties, potentially. The next thing I'm doing is I'm re-signing Malik Beasley. And I'm really curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Does 3 years, 45 sound too low, too high, or am I off the mark?
I think that sounds. Oh, go ahead, Kofie. You're the guest. You give the answer, bro.
No, sorry. I did this. I used a 2K to help me with the math and stuff. I think that's what. So, and he was asking for 16 million a year. So I think that's not that like, yeah, out of.
Use 2K as well, so I think that's good. That's a fair message. Trajan's just.
I do it for the numbers and cap stuff, because I feel like some websites just make it a little bit too. I'm like, oh, okay.
Man, you should.
No, yeah, as long as you're not
like
plugging in like tech, THJ, and a couple of seconds for Devin Booker.
Yeah, no.
Goes through. He's angry in Phoenix.
The next thing, this is the deal where I'm just like, man, what was I thinking in terms of realism? But I'm just gonna say it. So I don't even know if this is possible, but it's just the Pistons signing and trading for Miles Turner. So in theory, he would become a free agent, which I'm not sure the Pacers would let that happen, but say they do. The Pistons send out Jalen Duren 2 seconds, and I put Tobias in there, and then like as I've got onto the show, I'm like, they literally have Pascal Siakam, but maybe we swing Tobias somewhere else. But they bring in Miles Turner, and then just to round out the roster, they sign Torian Prince, and we bring back Lonzo. Each of those guys are on around 8 million a season. So, do you want me to read out the roster I've got? Because I know I've just said a whole heap there.
Let me see if I can remember what it is. But it's so the players that are staying essentially are Cade, Ivy. We'll keep Ron, then Asar, keep Stu, acquire Miles Turner, keep Malik Beasley, get Lonzo Ball, get Torian Prince. I'm missing 5 spots for guys?
Yeah. I'll quickly read out the 10-man rotation. So you start Cade, Ivy, Asar, Prince, Turner. Off the bench is Lonzo, Beasley, Ron. Then you've got Bobby Clipman at the backup for and Isaiah Stewart. So I also signed Markieff Morris just for depth as a random 4-man. Like, he's 35, just for pure depth.
Hey, that's not too old.
And culture.
That's not too old to dream. 35.
And just the final thing I'll say, and then I'll be quiet. But I think the main takeaway I have is, like, I'm really invested in Cade and Ivy. I love what I saw this season. And then Ron and Asar, I'm just so intrigued by them. So I wasn't that high on this I've always been relatively high on this young core, but seeing them this season with a functional team around them, with some shooting and a coach that, is bought in. I just really see some really special traits there, both sides of the ball between those 4 guys. I want to see what that can grow into.
I have a question for the other 2 guys. Does anyone think that Duren could be the answer at the 5 long term?
Nah.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to your JB Bickerstaff question, because I think this will kind of answer it. So JB has been better than I thought he was going to be. My one concern with JB is how he uses his bigs. And I thought that Isaiah Stewart was going to be like this 3-and-D stretch big. He was going to be like the perfect fit. And it's been so disappointing not seeing him shoot threes. And I don't think he's not as athletic as Duren. He doesn't have better touch around the rim. So using him as an inside center has been just a little bit frustrating after he's had like 2 seasons in a row of growth from behind the 3-point line. So my concern with JB Bickerstaff is that he wants like a rim running big in his system. And if he does, I think that means that Duren will stick around longer. And I think it's disappointing that we really haven't got to see what Cade looks like with a stretch big. And I thought we were going to get that this season with Stu.
I get you. But also, you pitched Bam Adebayo, right? So we're going to have him on the team anyway, so who gives a shit?
Yeah, that's true. He gets traded in my Bam trade, so he wouldn't be here regardless. But I just wish we had more of a sample size with a stretch big to know if like Cade needs a lob threat, or if like does it help him finish at the rim if the opposing center is not in the paint at the same time. So I just wish we saw that more.
Kofie, I want to ask you something along the line. So if that's okay. This is a question I posed to Mickey. What is the contract extension you would be willing to offer Duren to keep him around?
Oh, for me?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like whatever it is, the Pistons and Duren would just be so far apart in terms of like. I feel like in terms of paying Cade, Ivy, I want to extend Ivy over Duren, Asar over Duren. I'd rather extend. I feel like he's the odd man out, like honestly, and I think I'd rather just ship him out, honestly. Just like
so, no offer
of all. If you pick of the 4 out of those 4 players, I think Duren's probably the person I'd ship out.
What about a Stu contract? Like he got 4 for 60. Is 4 for 60 a weird? Is that too much?
I would do a Stu contract. I mean, I think that's a great contract, but I don't think that. I think that Duren would probably ask. Do you think that?
I think he would want. No, I think he would want
way.
More.
Like I feel like Duran would ask for like maybe like 25 a year.
4 for
30.
100 for Duran.
Yeah. 20,
That's a lot of
25.
cheese.
It's a lot of cheese.
Yeah, so I feel like that's just like I wouldn't like that. I'd be like, oh, ugh, feels
I
slimy.
agree with you that he's at the bottom of the ladder, though. I feel like I'd rather extend to Ivy, Asar's a year later. I mean,
Yeah.
you would think some consolidation has to happen at some point with the guys that Weaver drafted, and right now I feel like Duran is that trade target right now.
Do either of you? Does anybody have a number? So four for 60 is the number that we're maxing out on the Jalen Duran for.
I mean, do you guys think Stu is better than Duran? Would you pay Duran more than Stu? I don't think Duran is better than Stu.
No.
Harry, was this our
I'm
exact
just not
conversation?
extending him.
Yeah, it was.
Sorry.
We're having your
Okay.
conversation.
We were literally talking about Stu money. Would you pay him Stu money? And it's tough because I do think that he has potential, and like a lot of the NBA is like about potential, and he's shown growth, not growth at the same level or the same rate that Ivy has in the NBA so far. But also Ivy was drafted higher, and Duran's in kind of like a rough position in that regard. The other thing to consider is like with second apron teams and first apron teams, like the sort of contracts players are getting now, middle players are getting, is not the same as it used to be. So you're not going to get a lot of like Tobias level contracts for players of that ilk. So I'm curious to see what Duran is going to land at, and I'm curious to see if it is with this team, if they negotiate that, or if he does go out in the piece. Because I do think that with Cade, having a lob threat is important. And I think one thing we take for granted is how simple it looks when Cade throws a lob to Duran. Like whenever you see it, it's like automatic, whatever. It's another alley-oop, no big deal. When you watch literally any other Piston throw an alley-oop to any other Piston, it is troublesome. Like I don't care who it is, where it is, it can involve one of those two. It is still difficult. Every time I see it, I'm like, I did not realize how easy Cade and Duran were making this look.
No, it's crazy.
Jack, did you have
Cade will
thoughts on
just
that?
like throw these like one-handed like floating passes, and sometimes they get picked off, but like more often than not, it's just like those are ridiculous. Like go try to do that yourself. Like it's like he's a special passer. The thing with the lob threat with Cade is like I think he does need one. I can't say the name of the person who's commented that. Like, I 100% agree with what that person's saying in the chat. But for me, I'm just more invested in Asar Thompson, and that's why I'm going stretch big. Because I've actually liked JD's play recently, but it's still like you'll see with times Asar and Duran on offense just like they're almost getting each other's way sometimes with whoever's rolling, who's in the like it just kind of, at the end of the day, makes Cade's life harder, even if JD and Asar are really talented in their own way. I just think you need more space, like we were talking about earlier. Even though Cade does, it's kind of the beauty of Cade. He can thrive in a lot of ways, I feel. So, yeah.
So would you guys be interested in trying to sign Brook Lopez and his old bones in the offseason if the Miles Turner thing does not work out?
I would love his old bones in Detroit. I just
Jump those old bones.
Yeah, you would have to get rid of Duran or Stu, right? You couldn't have all three, but just even if he's like a little stopgap for a year to see what Cade looks like with a stretch big, and if his old bones can still defend the rim, I mean, I would think a 36-year-old Brook Lopez may be a better defender than 21-year-old Jalen Duran right now. So you may get improvement at the rim and you get spacing from the center position. But I would want Lopez and Stu, if they're going to play the center position, to play the same way of being like pick and pop stretch bigs as opposed to pick and roll.
Okay. So Jack, we got your offseason plan. Just because Bobby, you're talking about a little bit what your offseason plan is. Why don't you give us what your offseason and next trade deadline plan is as well?
Yeah, off season because I traded for CJ McCollum. We don't have a ton of cap space, so I don't know if I would give Beasley the 15 million per year. I think that non-taxpayer MLE exception will be like 13 million or 12 million or so. So I would give that to Beasley, extend Ivy. But my big deal would be to cash in on CJ's expiring contract, Tobias's expiring contract next year. We're going to say in this scenario, the Miami Heat are going to blow it up. We've already got the Jimmy Butler saga going on. I saw that there's now a Terry Rozier gambling thing going on. So Miami Heat, it's not going well. And Bam, halfway through the season next year, is going to want out. And that's going to be our time because we make the playoffs. We're going to open up all our future draft picks, and we're going to cash in on Bam Adebayo and Duncan Robinson by giving up CJ, Tobias, Duran, and 3 first-round picks.
I don't hate it.
It's expensive, but Bam feels like a Piston to me. And we were also talking about Duncan Robinson. He's not as small as he seems. Is he like I
think he's 6'7"? I think he's 6'8", 6'7" or 6'8". He's a pretty tall guy, and he shoots the three well. And his defense is better than I think he gets credit for. Plus, he's a Michigan guy. He went to U of M.
Yeah,
right.
He's coming home. But I think ultimately, with really any of these trades that we've talked about, I like the idea of opening more wing minutes for Asar and Ron to really just see what we have in them, get them more PT on the floor. You're always going to have one point of attack defender if one of them is on the floor, but also I want to see what both of them look like on the floor together too.
We had Tyler Metcalf from No Ceilings NBA on our show, and he was telling us the offensive defensive rate for Asar and Ron when on the floor together, and their defensive rating is like 90 points or something. It was like the top percentile, but their offense was 85. So yeah. It's like one of the lowest.
You're losing games 75 to 79 if that's the case.
That's going to work shit right there.
Yeah.
All right, Kofie, we've heard from the other two. I want to hear your 2025-2026 game plan. Give it to me, baby.
All right, so with Beasley and Alonzo resigning, I didn't really have that much cap space, so I went with Javon Carter, Garrison Matthews, and Josh Richardson, just dumpster diving at this point. Not dumpster diving, but you know what I'm saying. And then bargain bin.
The fans love it.
My bad. Bargain bin, bargain shopping. Thrift shopping. Thrifting. Yes. Oh, sorry. And then I was struggling with getting rid of Jalen Duren and Tobias Harris, and so I was thinking, I was like, Asar and Ron 3 and 4, Jaden Ivey and Cade 1 and 2, and then Stewart 5. So then I did this. I went Jalen Duren and Tobias Harris for Nick Claxton and Noah Clowney. And I was just looking at it, and I was like, does that really is not. I was I wanted the stretch big thing to happen, but then I looked through all of it, and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, it could work, but that's the best I could come up with, honestly. This GM stuff is hard.
It's hard. It's a tough gig. I mean, it's really easy if you don't look into the math or care about anything else. You're just I want this player, and then it works out for you. See that all over the place on Twitter, and that works out pretty well. But I gotta be honest, I'm not upset about any of your guys' game plans. How you feel about it, Mickey?
Yeah, no, and I applaud that last one for realism, because we were in talks with Claxton, or we're rumored to be interested in Claxton, and Clowney's younger too. Tobias is definitely on the way out. So I don't know. I think there's room for growth there, and then there's that continued flexibility that we would have. So I like that it's banking on the young guys to get better. I love the idea of pairing Cade with the spacing big, but that is easier said than done. I think people think about players like Miles Turner and be like, God, he'd be so good on the Pistons. And every other team's like, yeah, he'd be so good on our team too. That sounds fantastic.
I was the first guy.
Yeah, Jack was the first.
Sending the Pacers to Tobias.
But no, I like it. I like it. And I think like one of the things Harry and I have been talking about is we just like fantasize over what the team's going to look like over the next couple of years is just like, I'm kind of open to all of it, you know, as long as like slow progress or like, you know, a big move, like as long as something's happening, like Kofie said earlier, it feels good to be mid. It really does coming off of last year. So just to be not a national laughingstock and like actually in the postseason conversation is like, I feel like we're already playing with house money here.
We're in a pretty good spot. And I think all those proposed game plans are in the realm of realism, and I think they kind of speak to how the fan base and hopefully, I think honestly maybe likely Trajan Langdon feels as well, because it seems like our primary focus is like Cade's the man. Like there's no doubt about it. He's the guy. That's already been resolved. We all love Ivy. Ivy's showed like enough stuff this year where you want him to be on the team. And the future we see is the wing play of Ron and Asar, right? So that's the direction we want to keep this team going in the future. It sounds like we're all on the same page about like who are most likely to be moved or who you'd be most okay with being moved. I'd be fine if no one got moved. I like everybody on this team. I love the energy. I love the chemistry. I don't like messing with that stuff too bad. These guys are like a family. Like I don't want to break up the family necessarily, but if you want to win some games, sometimes that's how it goes. That's business. That's fine by me as well. And I just think that they have so much flexibility and so many options in the future. We could be in for a real big surprise next season, and that's just as exciting as the season play has been so far this year.
I'd agree. I think this trade deadline too will tell us a lot about what Trajan's thinking, because I feel like we haven't heard a peep out of him since like that press conference when he got introduced. But you know, if he stands pat and maybe, you know, takes on a contract with a couple seconds, it's like, okay, we're going to ride it out. If he ships out, you know, Beasley, it's like, oh, that was a big piece. You know, do you get a future protected first? I don't know. But like, oh, Beasley, he wants assets more than he wanted the results on the court. But if they go for one of, you know, our smaller deals of a CJ or Alonzo type deal, it's like, okay, maybe they're going for it in this. They're trying to make this a little bit of a playoff push. So I think we'll learn a lot in the next week or so about what Trajan wants to do.
I didn't prepare you guys with this question, but I want to ask it anyway. In that Beasley interview, he said that when he's talking to Trajan said that if they had some crazy offer for Beasley, they'd have to take it because that's business. What to you is a crazy offer you'd be willing to take to give up Malik Beasley?
Oklahoma City owns Miami's lottery protected first rounder in this draft. And so I would do that. If they gave up Miami's first rounder in this pick or in this draft, I would give up Beasley for that.
Okay. Jack, how about you?
Yeah, it would have to be like a team that's a top 20 unprotected pick, if that makes sense.
Teens to 20 area, not like a late 20s pick.
Not a late 20s. I think he's literally come in, and if on a scale of 1 to 100 in terms of changing the culture, I think he's like a genuine like 20%, which I think is huge. Like I think his vibe and the way he uplifts, and you know, you just see it on like social media, on Instagram, the way he like promotes his teammates. Like I think that stuff really matters, because we saw last year, like those vets weren't very good on the court, but they're not bad people. Like they're not like off court bad drama people. Like they just weren't really bought in. So I don't know. It would take a fair bit for me to move Beasley.
Kofie?
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, I think the fact that he's had such impact, honestly, on the team and the culture in this short amount of time, it would take a lot for me to be like, Oh yeah, but cause I know that he's going to be very, very valuable for like a team that wants, if a team wants him for like the playoff push. But it's going to have to be something like really tantalizing for me to like be okay with it, like rationalize it in terms of like, I know that there's probably a difference of like NBA teams being like, yeah, this seems fair, but I feel like for us it'd be like, okay, it'd be like every time we would see him come play for like another team, would be like, thank you so much for getting our team to this place. Like that, this was like a turning point. Like we signed you for not that much, like comparatively, and then we got this out of it. Like I would forever thank him for that. You know what I'm saying? But that would be one of the things where it'd just be like, it would have to be something like that would turn the trajectory of the franchise, make it more exponential, honestly.
Mickey, how about you? What would be your crazy offer?
Yeah, I agree with what a lot of these guys are saying. I also think Beasley's value is higher to us than it might be to like on another team. Like I think that he's a rhythm player and he needs minutes and he needs to get shots up, and I don't think he was getting that many minutes for the Bucks. And even thinking about other contenders that would want to throw a crazy offer at him, like who just needs like a professional sniper? Because Cade does, in the same way that he needs a stretch or not a lob threat. He absolutely needs someone to dish to who's just going to let it fly and wants to let it fly. Yeah, I think like a good first round pick. OKC has a ton if they decide they just need an absolute lights out shooter, but I don't know. I just don't know if that's really going to be the thing that moves the needle for any of these contenders. Maybe the Mavs, but yeah, I don't know what they're going to offer and what Beasley is going to do for them that outweighs what he would do for us. What do you think, Harry?
I would need whoever traded for him to give us a first round pick and to pay for Order the Blazing Horse to have season tickets to the Pistons for the next 20 years. I need them.
What section?
In the lower bowl. We got to be in the lower bowl down there.
Right on.
I'd also need them to fund the podcast. From now on.
Okay.
Pay for all that. So this is very Order the Blazing Horse focused stuff. I truly don't think there's a realistic, crazy enough offer for him from a team that would ask for him to keep him. I mean, to get rid of him. It doesn't make sense to me unless you think that there's no chance at this team making the playoffs or like making any noise in the playoffs, which I just don't think is true. I don't think any of us think is true. I think like him staying on the team and getting the team to the play-in or to the playoffs, getting this team playoff experience is so much more valuable than like let's say a top 20% protected draft pick. We've got second round picks. That's as close to the top 20 protected draft pick as you're going to get. We've seen what first round picks are going to be. We're all right there right now, I think. So like he's too important to this team. I can't think of anything that's real that I would ask for.
All right. Sounds like Beasley staying in Detroit.
Let's keep him here. If you guys don't watch him on Twitch too, he's very fun. He's a very personable guy. Big shout out to Bees. I like him a lot. I like who he's been on this team. And I love the shimmies. I love the shimmies. I love the shit talk. I love the steals. I just love this team. That's my hot take. I love this Pistons team. This has been one of my favorite Pistons teams of all time.
Hey. But Harry, you coined he's a 3 and V player, isn't he?
That's right. 3 and vibes, baby. 3 and vibes. Send that around. Ain't nobody like that.
He leads the league in swagger. That is for sure.
Yo.
Definitely.
He sure do. Well, that wraps up all the questions we have for you guys. Mickey, you want to confer real quick about who you think should win on this? We're gonna put you guys to the side real quick.
Yeah, we're gonna. What do you think?
I think. Are you ready to announce? Let's announce. We're going back to everybody. Tell them.
Let's announce. We're back. That was very quick. We may have been messaging a little bit throughout this, but you guys didn't know about that. You had no idea.
So I didn't. That's one thing I forgot. I didn't add a drum roll to this. I don't know if they had drum rolls in this game, but the winner today is Fuck it, it's all of us. Cade's an all-star,
It's
baby.
all
We're
of
all
us.
winners.
It's all of you.
We're
and
all
us.
fucking winners. All-star, baby. Woo!
Let's go.
And also, you guys answered. You were all together. You were all on point. Everything was right. If you were a team, you would have made a great, war room for the Pistons. I think it didn't seem like you guys were disagreeing at all with the stuff you wanted to do. You had each other's answers.
Not
you had
too
each other's
homery.
bets.
Just
Not too unreal. I'm just happy to see it. All right, we're gonna break it down. Let everybody give their shout outs. Kofie, we're gonna start with you. Tell the people where they can find you, what they should look for, and all that jazz.
Yeah, for sure. Feel free to follow the YouTube channel Secret Base. Feel free to follow my own YouTube channel, Kofie, Kofie. And you can follow me on Twitter, Kofie, TikTok, Kofie Y, and then Twitch, Kofie Y as well.
Get them. Moving on. Pistons, Jack. Tell them all about it, my man.
Yeah, you can just find me at Pistons_Jack on, I think, most platforms, not Blue Sky.
Not yet.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
But yeah, we just daily Pistons content. That's what I do. So thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Robbie.
You guys can find some of my writing at www.detroitbadboys.com, and I am not on 8 different platforms like Jack is. I am only on one. I am on Blue Sky at Bobby Buckets 313. You can follow me over there.
Harry, I got one more quick question for everybody. What's one Cade play you want to see in the All-Star game? Let's start with Kofie.
Ooh, Cade play. Gotta go with the chase down block. That means that it's probably in the fourth quarter. It means probably a little bit, probably when the All-Star game gets. Now, I know that the All-Star game, they don't usually play the new guys in the fourth quarter, but if we got like a Cade, like little chase down, I'd be like, yeah, that'd be dope. He's been doing that all year.
So Pistons.
Yeah.
Those chase downs have been friggin' awesome. He looks. I hate comparing people to animals. I feel bad about it, but it looks like when a mountain lion chases a giant animal down and just like dominates them. It's fucking sick. It's so aggressive. He's the man. All right, Jack, let's hear it.
I'm just looking at the All-Stars, so I kind of missed them. So I was going to say just a lob to LeBron, but it doesn't look like they're on the same. That stuff's. It looks like it's just East-West now. So. Man, maybe I don't know why I'm struggling with this so much. Maybe a step back 3 in front of LeBron. Yeah, even though they don't play defense, just like, just so we can get like that frame, that image, and go find it on Getty and download it.
I want to add to that. If he does hit that step back 3 in LeBron's face, I want him to do the Beasley shimmy afterward too, in honor of Malik. That'd be some team building shit.
That'd be huge.
Actually, I'm going to change it. Mine's a moment, and I want, speaking of photos, like it goes like LeBron, K, like KD, like the 3 of them standing together somewhere on the court, like during a stoppage. I think that'd be really cool.
That would be cool, and we're gonna get plenty of Cade and KD photos when they're both on the Pistons next year. So, Bobby, give it to me.
I want to see, because he's been doing it a little frequently lately, is a lob off the backboard to whoever. Actually, scratch it. I want him to catch the lob off the backboard. Somebody throw it to him and he'll slam it down. And I know they're not going to play together, but maybe a pick and pop with Kevin Durant, and we finally see a spacing big with Cade, and we're like, hey, look at JB, look at Trajan, look at what we could do here. So either of those work for me.
I love all those.
Love it.
How about you, man? Mickey, you got to give us yours. I mean, this is your idea. What do you want to see?
Yeah, I was thinking, Jack, you were talking about a lob to. I think a lob to Giannis would be pretty sick. I think that would be really fun. Just like a monster yam. What about you, Harry?
I want to see Cade come out onto the court and do the Dougie better than John Wall when he did it when he was on the Wizards, because that was like the sickest Dougie I've ever seen. I was so amped, and I just want to see some of that swag on Cade's end. So I love all the plays you guys have. I want to see a little bit off as well. I want to see him break it down to the floor a little bit.
I love it. All right, well, this was so much fun. Can't thank you guys enough for coming on. You got what it takes. You guys should all be running teams. I think that's clear at this point. If you liked what you saw here, like, subscribe, follow us, ding that bell. Am I missing anything, Harry?
No, I don't think so. Do I have the icon? That's so funny. I have this icon for it. It's not even showing up. There we go. We finally got it.
There it
I was
is.
missing it.
Bam.
New animations,
easy.
baby. There's
Look at that.
I'm going to be honest.
Mo graphing.
There's too much going on today. There's so many graphics in this game and
More
so
is
many
better.
people.
You did great. You did great.
Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. I need it. I need validation.
Killed it.
But so guys, we always end the show the same way every time. It's always the same thing. I don't know if you've picked up on this, but or the Blazing Horse, OOBH. That actually, when you have the anagram, it sounds a little bit like what a horse sounds like. So that's how we go out. We go out saying the pronunciation of OOBH, just like the horse does. So without further ado, we're going to leave you all from the World Blazing Horse. Like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff.